This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injuries and additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
And you are back in the Stone Zone. Joining me now, one of the most important voices over at YouTube, Luke Rudkowski of We Are Change. Luke is a libertarian. He's a patriot. He's a free thinker. They used to call him a conspiracy theorist until virtually everything he predicted would happen ended up happening. Now they don't call him that anymore. Luke, welcome to the Stone Zone.
Roger, it's a pleasure. I appreciate you taking the time to have me on here. Right after you just had Alex Jones on, that was a very epic, very important interview that I just saw as well here. There's a lot of important stuff to talk about, as I think the warnings that we're getting right now is that there definitely is a situation that's very ripe for a false flag that could happen at any moment right now that I think is important to forewarn a lot of people about, because there's going to be some big, drastic changes coming our way.
Yeah, I could not agree more. That was an epic interview here in the Stone Zone with Alex Jones. I only wish we had more time. You know, people I think are always surprised. These are the people who don't go to InfoWars, don't see him online. They buy this caricature of him as some kind of troglodyte or sometimes some kind of caveman. And then when you listen to the guy, yeah, he has some predictions or some beliefs that are out there, but he can tell you why he believes them. He can cite scientific studies and other authoritative information. He is very articulate, and he can argue for all of his points of view. I think that surprised a lot of my listeners who haven't heard him previously.
He's a juggernaut of the establishment. I've known him since 2004, and he has never let off of the gas pedal when it comes to exposing all of the things that so many powerful people try to keep away from you. So it's just amazing to still see him out there, still see him doing everything that he's doing after being attacked so viciously. I know you dealt with your attacks. I dealt with my, smaller attacks here. But, we got to admit it. This guy went through the ringer. I mean, this guy owes more money than the GDP of foreign countries, and still comes out the other end here, and just also did an amazing interview with Tucker Carlson that was gangbusters, that was huge, that also is now being shared by millions of people.
So you were one of the very early advocates of a pardon for Ross Ulbricht, who is the still young man who invented the dark web, essentially. And the Biden administration, like the Obama administration before, has always been extraordinarily hostile to the whole notion of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and any monetary system that they couldn't completely control. And they indicted and charged, in some cases convicted, squeezed guilty pleas out of many, many, many crypto pioneers when they really hadn't done anything wrong. Now you have a new administration that is, thanks to Scott Bessent and others, completely open to crypto, sees crypto for its value. How do you feel about this sea change?
I mean, no, this is an amazing time that will bring a lot of innovation, a lot of entrepreneurship here to the United States. I was talking about Bitcoin when it was still just a few bucks. When it was about $100, we told our audience about Bitcoin, that it was worth looking into, and that this is going to be a disruptive technology against the U.S. Federal Reserve banking system. If you look at the banking system right now, they are vehemently opposed against Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been trying to get the Fed to lower rates, but I think this is why we are seeing such an important kind of shift and pivot here towards alternatives. And I think what happened with Ross Ulbricht was one of the greatest accomplishments for the libertarians ever. I think it really solidified this kind of more libertarian, freedom-oriented Republican political party that now is kicking out the old neocon Bush-era party that is still pretty evident in there. But this kind of relationship with entrepreneurship, with successful people, with people who want to innovate, with people who want to build, with people who want to grow in this country, and now have the opportunity to do so without going to jail, that right there is a monumental opportunity that we have not had for a long time. And I've known so many people. There's still people right now in jail or facing jail. Joby Weeks is one of my friends. He's one of the guys that helped me expose Epstein Island. He's facing some very serious charges. FreeJoby.com is the website, I believe. There's also Roger Ver. There's also a lot of people who are debanked. There's also a lot of people that had their whole financial and political careers ruined because they were innovators in this space here. But now, finally, for the first time in a long time, Donald Trump is coming out and saying, you know what? You guys are going to have the opportunity to actually show us what you got, what you could build, what you could make. And this is such a great opportunity that I'm super excited for it, even though it's going to be tumultuous. It's going to be a wild ride. But I think overall, this kind of adaptation of the crypto space is something that was going to come eventually. We saw El Salvador make some very significant moves. We saw Argentina make some very significant moves with it. It's only logical that Donald Trump did this. It's the right step. It's the best step to take. And it truly will help safeguard the United States with our very kind of turbulent financial future.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
Are you a forward thinker? Then you need an HR and finance platform that thinks like you do. Workday is the AI platform that helps propel your organization, your workforce, and your industry into the future. Workday, moving business forever forward.
You need a vacation, so why not come play in LA? Fill your days with fun and let Los Angeles dazzle you with iconic landmarks, epic scenery, and stunning coastlines. And when the sun goes down, it's the perfect place to enjoy world-class dining and nightlife. Let play lead the way and soak up all this city has to offer. Start planning your LA getaway now at visitcalifornia.com.
Clorox Sentiva smells like lavender. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
All right, that could go on for a while. Experience the long-lasting freshness of Clorox Sentiva. Available in Clorox Sentiva Lavender Scented Bleach. Use as directed.
Kind of anticipated my next question. After Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, you famously journeyed to Epstein Island to report on the odd structure built there. What did you find, and what are your thoughts on the fact that the New York FBI office seems to have continued to withhold vital Epstein documents, videos, hard drives from the Attorney General and thus from the public?
Yeah, I mean, we've been waiting quite a long time here. And it's fair to assume now, with just the gross levels of not just incompetence, but participation in this program, that the FBI played a major role in this international child trafficking and extortion operation. They were involved in it because they had children coming to them in the 1990s, and they ignored them. When they raided Epstein's property, they never raided all of his properties. There was the New Mexico property. There was multiple properties in France and in other countries that were never even looked into, that were never even investigated, that never had an FBI agent step to the premises. And we're supposed to believe that the same FBI agent, the same Southern District of New York, the same corrupted aspects of the DOJ that covered up everything from the very beginning of this are going to now finally tell us the truth here. So I'm a little, as the young kids say, a little black-pilled on this scenario and situation, because when I went to Epstein's Island, when we raided Epstein's Island, I remember talking to everyone on the British Virgin Islands that were adjacent to it, and everyone knew, that's the island where children get taken to be hurt. And I talked to air traffic controllers, I talked to boat captains, I talked to bus drivers. Everyone knew. Yeah. It was an open secret for everyone. And you're telling me when we have on U.S. territory, yes, it's the U.S. Virgin Islands, but on U.S. territory, so many children, we're talking about thousands. And this is the scale of things, thousands. People think, oh, yeah, it's just a few crazy people. The latest developments with Virginia Giuffre aren't good for this case, by the way. It's not a good look for this entire situation, but that's another story in itself here. But when I went there, I found a lot of very weird sculptures, a lot of weird demonic sculptures, a huge, vast property. And I found what looked like a doorway to the underground. I found something, and I wasn't equipped with a crowbar. It was like a last mission kind of deal, kind of situation. And it was definitely a very, scary situation to be in, since you're literally on the intel agency island where they take children and do whatever they want to them. But the reason I decided to go is because I just knew the official version of events didn't make sense with how Epstein allegedly lost his life. And then after his alleged demise, there was someone that was flying a drone over the island, and someone that looked exactly like Jeffrey Epstein was seen in this video from this drone footage after he allegedly died. So I'm like, okay, now I need to go. Now I need to investigate. And I had multiple plans. I had multiple ways of trying to do this. What ended up happening was it was like a last-minute ditch effort. We just kind of went when we weren't expecting even to go, and we just kind of went with it and videotaped. And that video right now is available on youtube.com/wearechange, where you can see the full video in length of us going throughout that island and going on this crazy kind of adventure and going where the FBI was always too afraid to go because they were probably involved in this operation.
I really have two obvious questions. At least we know that when they raided Epstein's palatial residence in Manhattan, by the way, I think it was the largest and most valuable single-family home
in Manhattan
for
a long time.
We know that they removed multiple DVDs and hard drives from the safe on that property. Where are those materials now? Now, I can understand why they wouldn't be released because they're probably pornographic and worse. And we're not interested in exposing the identity of the victims, but we do have a right to know who was abusing children. And then secondarily, I still don't understand why Steve Bannon, between the time that Epstein was released from prison in Florida and the time he was charged with new federal charges, why Bannon visited him in New York, why Bannon visited him in Paris, both reported by the New York Post, by the way, and why they made a documentary together, which has never seen the light of day. I'd like to know the answer to that. I do think that you have what is here an overall cover-up, mostly by Damian Williams, the former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. He handled the period surrounding Epstein's alleged suicide. I mean, I believe he's dead, but I don't believe he committed suicide. I note that numerous medical experts have said that all the evidence is contrary to that idea. But he also handled the plea bargain of Ghislaine Maxwell, who is essentially Epstein's pimp. How do you charge someone for conspiracy without charging any of the other conspirators? It's not possible. And now he also handled the case of P. Diddy. And yet again, P. Diddy charged with conspiracy, but not naming any of the other conspirators. So to me, this reeks of a cover-up. I do trust Pam Bondi and Kash Patel to get to the bottom of it, but we haven't been told a small fraction of this. If you go to my book, The Clintons' War on Women, published in 2015, I am the second major author in the United States to cover the Epstein question. I published the FAA manifest that included who was on his airplane. I published the contents of his little black book, which, by the way, everybody in his little telephone book doesn't mean that they did something wrong. Donald Trump's in there. Many people in there who I think did nothing wrong. To the extent that there is a quote-unquote list, I don't think there is a list, but it is undeniable that after he was charged with a crime in Florida, and the police chief of Palm Beach gave the state's attorney in Palm Beach County sufficient evidence to charge Epstein with child sex trafficking, statutory rape, and worse, they charged him with one count of solicitation. That'd be like, Luke, you walking into a bar and trying to solicit a hooker. It's a minor charge. And then when the police chief complained, they bumped it up to solicitation of a minor. He went to the U.S. attorney who covers all of South Florida, Mr. Acosta, and Mr. Acosta conducted his own investigation, whereupon he then rubber-stamped the slap on the wrist by the state, and he sealed the entire case, hoping that we would never know any of this. It is only because the Palm Beach Post went into court in a 2-year epic battle that we found out that Epstein got a 15-month sentence, an 18-month sentence, of which he only served 15 months. But unlike every other sex criminal convicted in Florida, he was allowed to serve it in the air-conditioned Palm Beach County Jail, the new wing. And he was only required to be there from 10 o'clock at night until 6 o'clock in the morning. Other than that, he was kind of free to go. If it was not for a crusading reporter named Julie Brown at the Miami Herald, we would still not know the truth about Jeffrey Epstein. Now, when Acosta was appointed the U.S. Secretary of Labor, I think it was Alexander Acosta, I believe, no one bothered to tell Donald Trump that he had been the federal prosecutor who gave Epstein a pass. And when he was asked in preparation for his confirmation hearings what he would say if some senator asked him why he had let Epstein off easy, he said, well, I'm just going to tell the truth. I was approached by the CIA, and they said he works for us, and therefore you need to close this whole case down. And there you have it. That's why people come to the Stone Zone, to hear people like Luke Rudkowski and myself bring you the stone cold truth. So if you're interested in hearing the truth, because we criticize Republicans and Democrats, we criticize everybody. We're equal opportunity critics here in the Stone Zone. And I'll be right back with more of Luke Rudkowski, and we will lay some more truth on the people. Whatever you do, don't touch that dial. And we're back in the Stone Zone. We're talking to Luke Rudkowski of We Are Change. You can find him on that channel over there at YouTube. You've had great success on YouTube. Me, not so much. They don't seem to like anything I post. I think they are fish-faced enemies of the people, to be quite honest with you. Luke, you recently reported on the U.S. military spotting underwater UFOs rising up from the oceans. What do you make of this anomaly, and tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, first of all, great analysis, Roger, connecting the dots here with that Epstein story, because it's so important to talk about in the midst of us still kind of waiting to get some legitimate justice for the children out there, because these predators, they're still out there hurting children, and they're still out there rigging scenarios and financial markets and protesters against this Trump administration and everything that they're trying to do and accomplish here. Now, about these underwater bases, we have heard a lot from members of Congress, from members of the military. I've spent a lot of the times, talking to a lot of these people, interviewing them on the record, off the record. I had a very fascinating conversation with the former Canadian Minister of Defense that really kind of provided me a perspective into the situation that is kind of jarring and kind of perplexing. Now, the first time I heard about this was from a book called Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper. He was a U.S. Naval intelligence officer that in his book talked about these structures, these huge entities that were able to traverse land, air, and water, but specifically water and air, in a way that defied the laws of physics. Now, is this kind of advanced military tech here, or is this, proof of life of interdimensional beings or other creatures or other aliens that are amongst us? Well, if you talk to Tucker Carlson, he kind of describes this phenomenon as these interdimensional beings. But the important aspect of this is that when we were hearing reports of the drones over New Jersey, we were hearing of these drones going in and out of the water and then transforming, shape-shifting, changing shapes, very similarly to what we have been hearing with Behold a Pale Horse and William Cooper in his book. Now, we also have heard very similar reports as of late. I just did a video about this, which is I think, important to watch here. But we heard reports of UAPs and UFOs off of Fort Lauderdale, off of St. Cloud. I forgot the exact name of the city here in Florida. And then Daytona was another one where there are now multiple reports of things in the air that defied everything that we usually see up there. So there's now new reports of what's going on here. Do we know exactly what's going on here? I don't think we do. And I think it's left for interpretation. It's left for us to guess. There's some members of the military and government that have come out and talked about how these are Chinese drones. Some people say Iranian drones. Some people say this is just parts of advanced U.S. military tech that we don't know about. We saw Donald Trump just recently talk about the kind of capabilities and weapon systems that the United States have that will blow people's minds, that a lot of people can't even conceive of. Could this be something that he was hinting at here, or is this kind of proof of interdimensional beings or aliens and UFOs? Who knows? But I think the only real thing that we could conclude here is that we still have a lot more answers than we do. We still have a lot more questions than we do answers.
Luke, where can people follow you on social media?
YouTube.com/We Are Change is my main platform, but then I'm also on Instagram and Twitter on @LukeWeAreChange, and then I'm posting stuff. I'm doing a meetup here soon in Miami, and then we're also doing a range day for our members here in South Florida as well, which is going to be a lot of fun as well. So all of that details are on @LukeWeAreChange on Twitter.
All right, we have 1 minute to go. I like you very much, but when I first met you, you looked like a homeless hobo. Maybe chase people down and maybe you've been dumpster diving for your wardrobe. But now I get reports that you're looking very, very natty. Now I get reports that you're having custom suits made by the folks over at Taylor's on Tap, and people tell me you look like $1 million. So I'm glad that you have figured out Stone's most important rule: look good, feel good. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Luke Rudkowski, thank you so much for joining us today in the Stone Zone. We're glad to have you. And for all of my listeners out there, until we meet again, God bless you and Godspeed.